but make sure that's going in that direction. So, but look into that, guys. Really do some research on buying and acquiring companies, because you're just buying assets from people that, and with all the trends converge, because at the same time, it's now getting harder for us to get planning permission to open new facilities. We shouldn't need to go and refurb a 40 grand on a new facility, because so many fit pros have built these facilities and put their life savings into it. They just couldn't run it for shit, and that's their problem. But they put all this money into these nice spangly new facilities, and it's like flipping a house, like Gary's flipping the business. The value comes when you can take a company that has zero profits, which is therefore worth zero technically, and you can turn it into, if you can turn that, you have to turn that asset into a profitable asset in 60 days by doing stuff like Liam's teaching you and I'm teaching you. You can take something that's worth nothing to the seller and make it worth a lot to the buyer in 60 days, right? Like you take a house, or someone that knows all about cars can take your wreck of a car. You think it's on the market value it's worth nothing, but it's worth a grand. You're like, I'll give you 500 quid for it, and you go, okay. And that expert can deconstruct that car, sell it for parts, or do it up and sell it for 3 grand the next day. Just like if you learn about business, you can do the same thing. If you learn about real estate, you can flip and do the same thing. And now is the time. I wouldn't have really gone too much in depth in this years ago, but now is the time. The market is there with this kind of thing will become your predominant strategy if you're at that level to go forward. You should have mastered Facebook ads by now, and if not, get on it fast, because this was fucking 6 years ago. You need to have this dialed in. No one in this room should have a lead flow problem. It's 2019, right? People like myself and Liam have been ranting on the internet for fucking years about this stuff. You have hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of free stuff telling you what to do. We have paid programs telling you what to do. You can pay Liam to do it for you, right? We're gonna do it for one of you today, right? It's that easy. You should have no excuse. The information is out there. You just haven't done it because you haven't looked at your numbers properly, or you're just being a pussy, right? That's essentially it, right? So this needs to be dialed in. Once this is dialed in, a fit pro should not have a lead and sales problem in 2019. It's like saying you can't get fire or electricity. It's like, no, come on. The tools are all there, right? Just get over it, just need to overcome that fear of doing it. And that comes by clarity in your numbers and knowing what you can actually afford to spend by looking at the long-term ROI. So that should be dialed in. And then you're at the point where there should be, clients and sales coming in, and you're like, well, we're gonna have a capacity problem soon. I'm gonna need a new space. I'm gonna need another trainer. And again, the space and the trainers are out there and they're begging to be saved, right? And this now, when this is dialed in, then what Gary and Josh and we are doing is this will be your focus for the next few years. And if you can do this, it's not easy. This is not some quick, 6-figure hack. This is fucking gonna be hard, the hardest thing you'll do in your life. But if you can get the mindset, the resilience, and the skill, and the perseverance to think, I'm gonna get my lead flow dialed in, I'm gonna think like a business owner, and I might even be smart and say, how can I look to acquire or absorb or merge or collaborate with people that already have those assets I need of workforce or nice studios already set up. Then, or like you guys working in and out of a place, right? There could be opportunity there for you to be savvy and turn around to the owners and say, hey guys, how are you guys doing without our help, right? We're learning a few things, right? How about we share some money and some revenue together and we all make it work, right? And so it's shared. This is the time now. Assets become, in a recession, certain assets become more scarce and hard to get hold of. Skills or email lists or client lists. You guys need to start collaborating, because as it gets more expensive to acquire one asset, you need to partner with people that have the asset and you provide the assets you have. Maybe you have a really cool training nutrition system, or you have something else that's really, or you know how to run Facebook ads, or you have a sales system that converts, or whatever it might be, and you then apply it to the people that have maybe the training skills in the studio. This is real business now, guys. It's not just being a good PT or being a busy PT. That's for amateurs. I let other people teach that stuff. I'm like, if you want to dominate your area and really monopolize, dominating your area is not getting all the clients, it's getting all the trainers and all the studios, which bring all the clients with it, right? you have a question, guys?
Yeah. No, I'm just going to say, like, if you was to, what would you say is, if you was to buy somewhere, what would be the most you would buy it for? Because we did get offered to buy somewhere, didn't we? But
I'm not talking about buying like real estate here necessarily.
No, it's wanting us to buy the business, and it was what?
Well, buy a business, right?
Yeah, it was what were it, 60 grand? And
Yeah,
just like,
Well, that's a question I can't really answer. That's like, how much could you bench press,
Yeah.
right? It's it's all relative, right? A company like, okay, if you sell a car or a house, right? There's a market value for it where an assessor can come in and look at real stats to say, technically it's worth this. But then there's things called buyer motivation and seller motivation. So maybe you have a Ferrari you want to sell and it's worth 250 grand. Technically on the market is a fair price, but you have to leave the country tomorrow, and if you don't sell the car tomorrow, it's going to be crushed and you're going to lose possession of it. And you've got 1 minute before you leave the country. I'll give you £1,000. If there's no other option, you'll sell it for your buyer motivation becomes I'll sell it for £1,000. Same way. So it's and buyer motivation, right? Maybe you've got a let's say an example of this, buyer motivation. Let's say I'm in competition with Gary in his area, and I see Gary is kicking ass, right? He's got this brilliant mentor called Justin something. And I'm like, okay, I want to build a company in Gary's area, and I want to build a company that does all sorts of fitness and things like that. And I'm very wealthy, let's say, and I know every man has a price. And I might want to buy Gary's company just so I can destroy it after and get him the fuck out of there so I can carry on with my master plan, right? So if his company is worth technically, 500,000, if I need to, I might pay him more. I might pay him like $1 million just to fuck off, right? And then I can just and this happens all the time. I might buy his company just to destroy it, right? Because he's a problem to me. Right? Or I might say he's got something, I've got maybe I've got a big gym, like a gym, etc. Kind of big, cool thing, and like these big things I'm gonna realize if I'm gym, etc. One of these big brands, I've now seen this transformation trend thing happening, and I've seen people pay money to these weird boot camp people because they have rigs and they have sledgehammers and stuff. So we're gonna spend 50 grand kitting out our gym with rigs and sledgehammers. And I do that, and then still no one comes because you weren't selling the rigs and you were selling the culture, the community, the results, the coaching, the stuff that they're never going to pay for. They just think it's the buzzwords and the gimmicks. So I'm the owner of this big company. I've spent money on this, and I'm like, that hasn't worked. Then I realize, I know what it really is. What Evo Didsbury are doing is they've got those coaches, they've got real great culture system, retention, right? I might say, I want that in this company. So even though Josh's company might be worth £1 million, I might say, you know what, it's worth 1.2 million. But Josh is like, I'm not selling. I don't need to sell. I've got my own plans. This business isn't for sale. But if he's going to be the one thing I need to make, if I know I could plug his business into mine, and it would allow me to bring an extra 1,000 members into my gym, and maybe that's worth 4 million a year to me. So you know what, I'll give you 1.3 million for your company, 3.3 more than market value. And then Josh is like, all right, okay, maybe we'll do it, right? And I buy it, I pay over the odds, more than it's technically worth, 1.5 million comes in, but I add 4 million to my revenue now. Or it happens all the time with houses, some rich person will see a house they like, a Hollywood director sees a ranch and goes, I want that house, knocks on the door. The person's like, this is my house, it's not for sale, I've lived here 20 years. The rich person says, well, I know it's worth 3 million on the market, I'll give you 5 because I want it, price is not an option. The person goes, okay, I'll pack my things, it's yours. So there's buyer motivation. So every deal has to be really judged on the merits of your expertise. It's how much that person needs to make a sale versus how motivated you are, what you can do with the sale. Because maybe you can flip it in a way that they can't, right? You have to understand what their assets are that they're not monetizing that you could. Maybe they have a list of they may have a email list of 1,000 unconverted prospects, and they don't think that's worth anything. But you have like learned Liam's system, and you're like, I've got that email follow-up template. You know, if I could, and so you can acquire individual assets. You can just go to a trainer right now, has 1,000 emails and phone numbers, and say, you know what, if you're not gonna follow up with those leads, are you? You haven't followed up with those in a month. Like, no, they haven't. You can say, you know what, I'll give you, you know, you got 1,000 leads, I'll give you 30 pence for every email subscriber and phone number you have. So, you know, that times 1,000. You know, money talks to them. 300 quid, yeah, okay. Right? You plug them into your list, you send out the email template, which you've paid like fuck all for, and maybe out of that 1,000, you get 10 clients. Worth a lot more than what you paid for the asset, right? This is investment, right? This is, you know, it goes beyond, this is investment and how asset, you know, valuation works. It just trickles down to business. When you think this way, you'll see a lot more, you're operating, again, on that higher level of perspective. Your acting, thinking, planning is on a different level of perspective now. Like I said earlier, if you only act, you can think, plan, and take all the action you want, but if it's only on your level of perspective, you're only going to get that level of results. When you start working with people that can offer you a higher level perspective, and like, now your brains are whirring, and see you're all like, I want to go on, you know, Jordan Belfort the hell out of my area now and buy everyone up, right? So, yeah, so, okay, cool. That's, but we'll touch more on that in the mastermind later on, because that's a bit more advanced stuff really, but it's good to go into that. Because I do think that's where the industry is going to head, where you're going to have the biggest advantage in the next couple of years. But again, it's not going to be easy. I'm not saying this is like just, you know, like building a firewall you can run and do it. This is going to be hard work and a bit of risk for a lot of you guys if you're not prepared for it. But, you know, just to be open and honest with you, I'd have to say this is the strategy. I think if you can do the hard work of looking into it, you might get some of the biggest advantages in the next 3 to 5 years, whilst the market is correcting itself now. You're in a prime opportunity that won't come around for another 10 years, where it's a buyer's market. All these PTs now at the end of their tether, they've gone 6, 7, 8 years now, they haven't done the Facebook ads, they haven't listened to us, they're on the verge of quitting. And they're on the verge right now of just giving up their gyms anyway, because it's more of a liability now for them to keep their things. They're in so much debt than it is just for you to pay some of their debt and take it off them.
I was just going to say, I've been on the flip side of this. In the 09 recession, I had a sports nutrition business that was doing about, around a year, and the recession we started to bomb, and we got acquired by a competitor for probably about 5% of what the business was worth. And,
when was that?
It was 09. It was called creatingstore.co.uk. They bought the business for 40 grand. It was doing 800 a year. And to be honest, at the time, I would have just done anything just to make it all start. So everything that Justin is saying, you got to listen to him because he's dead right. The only thing that saved me at the time was that we had an email list of 90,000. And the guys paid me 125 grand to sign a no-compete clause, so I couldn't take the email list. That was probably this month.
Cool. So there's another way of finding assets. There's an asset of not having Liam as a competitor, and then finding a way to charge 100, make 6 figures for that. 6 figures for me not to compete with you.
And that was just to get me.
That's an upsell.
That was just to get me out of the equation.
Yeah.
That's all that was for.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. So, do you guys have any specific? Let's do a bit of Q&A. Do you have any questions on anything else on marketing, or anything else on systems, or team building, or finances, or anything at all, guys? What kind of biggest questions would you have? Mike?
What would, if you had to track, like, I don't know, what would your top KPIs be?
Top KPIs in my business. I have to track. You do have to track. We do have to track. So that's the good news. KPIs. Okay, cool. Good question. So, what are the top KPIs we track amongst the business? So, the way the top level of the business we look at is we have our growth targets on one hand versus what we call our cash flow actuals. Right, so there's some growth targets on one side, cash flow actuals. So what that means is the first premise of the business. For most people, the first cornerstone cost of your business is you want to get paid an income from it, I assume, right? So, and in our mention, we go into our cash flow system a lot. This will make a lot more sense. I haven't got time to explain the whole thing, but essentially, the first cornerstone is you need to walk away. The minimum cost is you need to make the payroll for yourself you want to make. Everything else is just gravy after that. So usually that's the first goal. It doesn't matter how much money you make. If your company's making 100 grand a month, but you're only taking 500 of it, it doesn't matter, does it? I mean, if you can't even pay your own bills, it doesn't matter what the company makes. Whereas if you want to take 3 grand a month and the company only needs to make 3,500 a month, great, you already met your goals. You're happier and wealthier than a 7-figure broke person, which most of them are, right? Because most of them have 100K a month companies that cost them 120K a month to run. So you want to start off knowing what is the number you want for yourself to live as an income. And don't just think about right now, because you might want a family in 5 years, you might have a family in 5 years, you might want to put savings aside. So if you don't be too humble about it either. Like, I can live in the back of my car and eat Nutella sandwiches or whatever, so I can live on 500. It's, you've got to think about as well the fact that, look at what's the minimum threshold the number's going to be between these two. It's going to be, first of all, between what's the minimum number you need to live right now and live frugally. Not like a pauper, but to live an okay lifestyle, right? Maybe that's 3 grand a month for a lot of you. But then there's going to be a higher threshold to that number of, for the work you're actually doing, what would be a reasonable market kind of competitive salary for that? Would anyone else do the job for 3 grand a month essentially? Or could they do it? Probably not. So look at, okay, if I had to outsource everything that I'm doing the marketing, the sales, the coaching, if I had to outsource all those jobs, what would I realistically pay a going rate for someone to do that? To basically run a company? That's probably going to be more in the realm of 6,000 to 8,000 a month. Probably a 6-figure salary for most of you. Most of you don't need a 6-figure salary, but you probably are earning one, or you deserve to earn one. So there's going to be probably a number between 3,000 and 8,000 a month is the cornerstone thing the company needs to make. Let's just call it 5 grand to be on the safe side, right? Now, your company revenue overall needs to be at a higher number than that to produce that. Now, generally, what we do is we have your gross revenue, and then we will take off your VAT off that gross revenue. We will take off the price of any contractors you pay, which is probably most of your team at this company size. And what's left is what we call the real revenue. That real revenue then is generally your owner's compensation will generally be 40 to 50% of that real revenue number as a target. So let's say your company is making 20 grand a month right now. So let's say you take off 2 grand a month for VAT, and you've got 3 grand a month in contractors, a couple of coaches and admin. So you're actually left with 15K real revenue after that point, right? Of that 15K, you could be able to allocate up to 50% or 7.5 grand as your owner's compensation for that. As long as you've got quite a heavy role in the company. If you're doing a lot of operator work, you could probably get away with taking 50% of that money as a target. Right, so that's how you want to be working. So if the example was you wanted 7,500 a month as your goal take